Imagine an empire so powerful, so advanced and so wealthy that even mighty Rome trembled when its name was spoken. Yet today most of the world has forgotten it. This is the story of an empire erased from common history books, a civilization more powerful than Rome, whose influence once stretched across continents and whose legacy still lingers in ruins and whispers. For centuries, historians focused on Rome as the center of the ancient world. But what if I told you that far to the east, another empire rivaled and even surpassed Rome in power, culture, and military might? This is the story of the Parthian Empire, the forgotten giant that stood toe-to-toe with Rome and left behind mysteries that still shock archaeologists and historians today. The Parthians began as a small nomadic tribe in the deserts of Central Asia. No one expected them to rise into a superpower. But through cunning strategy, relentless warfare, and unshakable determination, they forged one of the greatest empires the world has ever seen. At their height, the Parthians controlled lands stretching from the Euphrates to the borders of India, ruling over millions of people, vast trade networks, and cities filled with unimaginable wealth. Their position along the Silk Road made them the gatekeepers of East and West, controlling the flow of silk, spices, and treasures between Rome and China. Every piece of trade that reached Roman markets carried the fingerprints of the Parthians. It was not Rome but Parthia that held the real economic power. What made the Parthians so terrifying to Rome was their military genius. While Roman legions marched in tight formations, the Parthians fought with speed, precision, and deception. Their cavalry was legendary, especially the horse archers who could rain down arrows while retreating, a tactic known as the Parthian shot. In 53 BC, at the Battle of Carrhae, the Parthians delivered one of the most humiliating defeats Rome had ever suffered. With only 10,000 cavalry, they crushed an army of 40,000 Roman soldiers, led by the ambitious Crassus, one of Rome's wealthiest men. Crassus himself was killed, and his head was paraded as a trophy. The shock of Carrhae rippled through Rome, proving once and for all that the Parthians were no ordinary enemy. Rome could conquer Greece, Egypt, and Gaul, but Parthia was an entirely different beast. Beyond the battlefield, the Parthians built a culture that blended the best of East and West. Their cities were marvels of architecture, with palaces decorated in Greek styles, temples honoring ancient Persian gods, and markets overflowing with goods from India and China. Unlike Rome, which often crushed the cultures it absorbed, Parthia was a melting pot where different traditions were allowed to coexist. Greek, Persian, and local influences merged into a unique civilization. Their capital, Ctesiphon, became one of the largest cities in the ancient world, with sprawling palaces, grand halls, and lush gardens that rivaled anything Rome had to offer. To the Romans, Parthia was both a threat and an enigma, a place of incredible wealth and mystery. The Parthians were not just warriors and traders, they were masters of diplomacy. They understood that their empire sat at the crossroads of the world, and they exploited it brilliantly. They struck alliances with Eastern kingdoms, negotiated with Chinese envoys, and played Rome's internal politics to their advantage. While Roman generals dreamed of conquering Parthia, the truth was that Rome never managed to do so. Every attempt ended in disaster or stalemate. Even Julius Caesar, before his assassination, was planning an invasion of Parthia to reclaim Roman honor after Carrhae. His death prevented it, leaving Parthia unconquered. The empire endured for nearly 500 years, resisting Rome's might at its peak. But with power comes darkness. The Parthians were often torn apart by internal struggles. Kings rose and fell in bloody succession wars as noble families fought for control. Betrayal was common, and loyalty was bought with gold. This instability weakened the empire over time. Yet, despite the chaos, Parthia remained a formidable power, able to face Rome for centuries without falling. They perfected the art of surviving in the shadows, neither fully destroying Rome nor being destroyed by it. One of the darkest secrets of the Parthian Empire lies in their forgotten legacy. Unlike Rome, which left behind volumes of writing and monumental ruins, the Parthians left little record of themselves. Was it by choice, or did history deliberately erase them? Some historians suggest that Rome's dominance in Western scholarship overshadowed Parthia's story, painting them as mere barbarians. Yet the truth is clear. Parthia was a superpower equal to, and at times greater than, Rome. The fact that most people today barely know their name is one of history's greatest injustices. The Parthians also carried with them an aura of fear, fueled by legends and myths. Stories spread of their curses, of kings who dabbled in forbidden rituals, and of generals who vanished mysteriously. Ancient sources speak of tunnels beneath their palaces where treasures were hidden, never to be found again. Were these stories exaggerations, or was Parthia guarding secrets too dangerous to reveal? Archaeologists continue to search for the ruins of their great cities, hoping to uncover what the sands have concealed for centuries. Some discoveries hint at technology and architecture far ahead of their time, suggesting that Parthia may have possessed knowledge that vanished with their empire. The downfall of the Parthian Empire came not from Rome, but from within. After centuries of power, the constant infighting among noble families left them weak. A new rising force, the Sasanian Empire, seized the opportunity. In the 3rd century AD, the Parthians were finally overthrown, their dynasty erased. Yet even then, the memory of Parthia haunted Rome. The Sasanians inherited their power and continued to challenge Rome for centuries. Rome never forgot Carrhae, never forgot the humiliation delivered by Parthia's cavalry. The shadow of the Parthians lingered long after their empire was gone. So why does no one talk about the Parthians today? Why does history glorify Rome while ignoring its greatest rival? The answer lies in who wrote history. Roman writers dominated the records that survived, shaping the narrative of the ancient world. To them, Rome was eternal, Parthia was a nuisance. But when we look closer, we see the truth. Parthia was not a nuisance. It was Rome's equal, and in many ways, its superior. An empire richer, more diverse, and more resilient than the one we learn about in school. The fact that it has been forgotten is a tragedy, but also an opportunity. Because by uncovering its story, we can finally see history in full. The forgotten empire more powerful than Rome is not just a tale of ancient wars. It is a reminder of how fragile power can be, and how even the mightiest civilizations can vanish from memory. Rome still stands in our textbooks and monuments, but Parthia, Rome's great rival, lies buried in the sands of time, waiting to be remembered. As we uncover their secrets, we remind ourselves that history is not just what is written, it is also what has been erased. And sometimes what has been erased is more powerful than what remains. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of history, don't forget to subscribe to Past in Shadow. More forgotten tales, dark secrets, and ancient mysteries are waiting to be revealed. The empire of Parthia may be gone, but here, its story lives on.